Welcome back to Atlantic Fellows Conversations from the Climate Action Convening in Bogotá, Colombia. I'm Fionnuala Sweeney. In this podcast, we hear from Atlantic Fellow Ambrose Carrol from the US. Ambrose is the founder and CEO of Green the Church.
All right, good day. My name is Ambrose Carrol, CEO of Green the Church, a national organization in the U.S. at the center of the African American church experience and everything with environmentalism and sustainability. I am an Atlantic Fellow for Racial Equity, part of the 2020 cohort, and so very glad to be here in Bogotá, Colombia, as fellows are coming together with a focus on the environment. So it's been fascinating to see so many people involved in the work in so many different ways. Green the Church is the nation's largest environmental organization founded for and by the Black church in particular. I came into the work in 2009. I was a part of something called Green for All. It was actually a fellowship started by a gentleman named Van Jones, who worked for a while as the Green Job Czar in the Obama administration. We learned a lot about the environment and sustainability, and noticed that there were not a lot of people from the Black church present. There were a lot of people of color, people from the Appalachians, people in coal country, Native Americans, but not a lot of people from the church. Subsequently, I began to work with an organization called Interfaith Power and Light, which is one of the largest organizations in our nation working across faith communities, because this work of the environment, we need everybody and we need everything. So we started to work with Interfaith Power and Light and really found our tribe, but then noticed that though there were people of all faiths, there were very little people of color. And so we decided that we had to bring those two things together and really wake up the sleeping giant that is the African American church. There's never been a successful social movement without the tone and tenor of the Black faith tradition. And we really wanted to wake up those sons and daughters of Martin King and Absalom Jones and those types of things and bring them into the movement, because the movement needs everybody. Our three pillars are amplifying green liberation theology, promoting sustainable practices, and building power for political and economic change. So over the last 8 or 9 years, we worked with other coalitions in the states. We worked for a Green New Deal, and we aggregated the Black church in different parts of the country to work for what Biden then called Build Back Better. And then that didn't work. Then we advocated in this last round for something called the Inflation Reduction Act and the Infrastructure Bill. The Inflation Reduction Act is an act that is bringing billions of dollars to help infrastructure and to make sure that the country and all of our buildings have the retrofits that they need. And a part of that is a Justice 40 mandate. Since the 1940s, after World War II, a lot of communities were purposefully what we call redlined. That means that within every city, there was an area in a lot of our downtown areas where African Americans could not buy homes that came on the market that the federal government supported for individuals coming back from war, by making sure that housing costs were low with low interest loans. African Americans particularly could not get those loans and had to stay in public housing areas that created ghettos where there were food deserts and where banks were no longer there. We experienced what's called white flight. So in those areas also were the contamination of cities, where a lot of our water treatments, a lot of our sewage went, a lot of the industrial areas, whether along the shipyards. In West Oakland, where I live, it is adjacent to San Francisco, but trains, planes, automobiles, and all the toxicities that come along with it, along with the industrial waste, is in those areas. So people would come across the tracks into those areas to work for a few hours, go back. But the African American community has traditionally been in those areas. With the toxicity, a lot of the air pollution, so a lot of the carcinogens, a lot of the sicknesses, the cancers, eating food that had no nutritional value. Richard Nixon, one of our presidents, decided to put a lot of fat and sugar so that people would have something in their belly. These are these marginalized red line areas that are now mapped out. And so if your church and community sits in these areas, then you are available to get some of these tax breaks, to get some of the funding so that we can build those communities up better and detoxify. in that Inflation Reduction Act and the infrastructure bill, we did not get everything that we wanted, but we did get this $150 billion, part of the Justice 40 mandate that is earmarked for communities of color and marginalized communities all over the country in these areas so that we can do some positive things. So we think that has indeed been a win. African Americans don't own a lot of skyscrapers in downtown areas in the States, but we do own a lot of faith buildings, a lot of churches, some of them storefronts, some of them large cathedrals, but all of them need to be retrofitted and all of them need clean air and clean water. So we've been able to follow up with programs to help congregations decarbonize, become electric, new HVAC systems, heat pump water heaters. We've helped churches with their own infrastructure, insulations, roofing, and also renewable energy to make sure that churches can have solar, battery, and EV charging stations, and even make revenue from those EV charging stations as the nation builds up that infrastructure, really being a part of the green tech industry as well. So those are some things that we've been a part of by aggregating, saying politically, this is what we want, and then attempting to be off-takers of that legislation to empower the people. This convening has been so exciting. People from literally all over the planet that are dealing with whether it is food sovereignty or the environmental justice implications on our ecosystem as a part of this dialogue. It's so fascinating. And because the work of Green the Church is so holistic, there's so many opportunities and I think templates of how people are doing the work, especially because in the United States, in particular, we are often very siloed in with our work and a lot of navel gazing, a lot of what we need and all about us. But there have been so many organizations that I have encountered that are doing transnational work and that has made international fellowships and partnerships a part of their daily work. Really inspired by that and really want to see in the future how Green the Church can not only talk about the church, but faith communities around the world and enter into dialogue and fellowships and make sure that we're having wider conversations.
That brings us to the end of this podcast. Thank you for listening. Next time we hear from Atlantic Fellow Enamul Mazid Khan Siddiqui. Enam is an environmental activist and has been working for environmental justice for the fishing community of his home country, Bangladesh. I'm Fionnuala Sweeney, and you've been listening to Atlantic Fellows Conversations from the Climate Action Convening in Colombia. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it on and subscribe to the series wherever you get your podcasts. If you'd like to learn more about Atlantic Fellows and their work for equity, please go to our website at www.atlanticfellows.org.